This is the first video in the Module 3 Blended Learning Resources. So on this course, we're going to provide you with an understanding of the core strategic models, tools, skills and concepts that lie at the heart of an MBA course. And in this Module 3, we're going to be focusing on the general layer or general environment. And in looking at this, we're going to go through a further 3 steps. So first of all, we're going to look at how we can interpret the general environment, or more specifically, changes within it. And in relation to that, we're going to look at something called the PEST 3 Porters 5 Forces model. And then we're going to look at the importance of constantly scanning the general environment for changes. And in relation to that, look at something called the sigmoid curve. So then we'll have looked at all 3 layers of strategic analysis. So the industry layer or industry environment, the internal environment and the general environment. And we will be ready to think, well, how do we build for the future? Not just to survive change, of course, businesses do not just exist to survive, but in order to prosper and grow. In relation to that, we're going to look at something called the resource-based view, or the resource-based view of change, or the resource-based view of long-term strategy, as sometimes called. And then the final step of the course, we'll look at our corporate strategy and a frame with an even stranger name, the strategic sweet spot. So let's get started in a look at the general environment. So if you remember, I very briefly mentioned the general environment in Module 1, and so it's made up of all of those external factors that do not specifically sit within the business's industry, but that will still be extremely important for the success of the business. It's actually made up of a huge range of factors, more factors than either within the industry or internal environment. So here we think about factors such as, but not limited to, economic conditions, house prices, interest rates, levels of unemployment, fashions, taste, trends, demographics, attitudes to work, attitudes to free time, attitudes to ethics, attitudes towards the environment, politics, laws, regulations, technologies, and so on. And once again then, because there are so many factors for us to consider, we need to use some kind of framework to help us to conceptualize these various factors, just to provide us with some kind of structure to our thinking in the development of strategy. And the next framework we're going to look at comes by a variety of different names. So one of the most popular names for this framework is a PEST framework, where PEST is short for political, economic, sociocultural and technological factors. So the first thing to note about each of these 4 headings is they're much broader than their first sound. So political, as well as covering political policies and political processes, also covers laws and regulations. So from now on, all laws and regulations will come under this very broad heading of political. Next, economic, so as well as covering factors such as economic conditions, interest rates, house prices and general economic health, it also covers factors such as the infrastructure, in terms of road and rail networks, and the availability of natural resources. So the second thing to note about each of these headings, the first was they're much broader than their first sound. The second thing to note is that every country will have a different general environment. Clearly different countries have got different availability of natural resources, different infrastructures, economic conditions, political systems, laws, regulations and so on. S, so this covers factors such as fashions, taste, trends, demographics, attitudes to work, attitudes to free time, attitudes to ethics, attitudes towards the environment, and finally T, levels of available technology. Sometimes you see a PEST referred to as a STEP, which is exactly the same set of factors, but in a different order, so sociocultural, technological, economic and political, and sometimes it's referred to as a PESTLE, which is the same factors again to start off with, political, economic, sociocultural and technological, but this time the legal facts being extracted out of political and just been given their own standalone heading, the L for legal, and the ethical and environmental factors have been extracted out of sociocultural and just been given their own standalone heading, the E for ethical and environmental. And of course, all of these factors are subject to change. So in the next video, we'll look at how we can interpret changes within these various PEST factors.